Now back to why I created a show, Eternity. You see, Fred, the subject of the afterlife fascinates me, as it fascinates millions around the globe. I think the one thing that we are certain of in this life is that we will die. And when we die, where will we go? Rather than death being a morbid subject, death is actually the thing we should be best prepared for. Just as we prepare for every phase of life, just as we prepare to go on a trip and to maximize the joys and benefits that we would experience, so too, friend, for the one certainty in life, which will be death, it's so important to know where will you spend eternity. And that's the reason I created this show, to normalize the conversation of the afterlife, to remove the stigma of fear and death associated with the unknown. For anything that is unknown creates trepidation in us. But as we begin to understand what exists, and as we begin to hear and learn from the experiences of others, this starts to chart us on a new and familiar course. It removes the doubt, it removes the fear of the unknown. And so I come into your living room every week, inviting you to share in this knowledge and education of the life to come. Now, I have had what is termed near death experiences, and this term rather was coined by one Dr. Raymond Moody of the United States. So many of his patients had been coming to him, telling him about what had occurred to them during periods of intense pain, during sickness, during accidents, that they left their bodies. Their spirit left their bodies and they were able to be in another place. Many of them were able to look down and see what was happening, and they came back with tales to tell. Some experience healing, like myself, but we all come back changed in some form or fashion. My first near death experience, and I had no knowledge that this was such a common phenomenon. It was back in 1998, and I was ill with hyperemesis gravidarum, and I collapsed on my doctor's desk, and I found myself in another place, in another world. And when I came back, friend, I was healed of that condition and of another condition. And this happened to me 3 times, where my spirit left my body due to health conditions, due to extreme pain. We all have different pain tolerances. We are not created equally when it comes to tolerances for whether it be the cold or the heat, or in my case pain, or the ability to eat hot sauce. Some can, some can't. And it's a similar thing with pain. Some of us are able to tolerate better. I'm not one who can tolerate better. And so when these experiences kept happening to me 3 times, I felt it would keep happening if I didn't share it. That there was indeed some divine purpose as to why God was allowing me to have these experiences. And so, friends, I wrote my story in this book, Touched by Eternity, a true story of heaven, healing, and angels. And I'll actually be sharing a little bit. I've bookmarked the page here with my Read with Smokey bookmark. And I will also be sharing on one of the characteristics of the dying process as identified and described by Dr. Raymond Moody in his book. This will be coming up a little later in the talk. As a former teacher of 12 years teaching high school, I love to educate. I love to research and to share and to impart, because when we know, we have power. When we know, we can do things differently. We can be prepared. And that's the reason I created this show, friend. Now, my spirit leaving my body may have been new to me, but it's not a new phenomenon. The Bible tells us in the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 12 verse 2, Paul speaks of a man who was taken up into the third heaven, but who when he returned was not allowed to speak of what he saw. God gives us the ability to remember. God gives us the ability to zip our lip or to speak forth what has happened. The Bible records many people who have also experienced death and come back, but we have not heard their testimonies. And so Dr. Raymond Moody coined the term near-death experience to describe what has happened to us, because many of us experience symptoms of death. And what does that feel like? The dying process. That's what I've been sharing on the last couple of weeks, the characteristics associated with it, and I will continue to share it again. You know, I read last December that there is a European study that said 1 in 10 persons have had a near death experience. But, friend, a lot of people don't talk about these things because they tend to be ridiculed. After I came out with my experience and I wrote my book here, a number of people started to tell me what had happened to them. You see, they now felt safe to speak to someone who had understood exactly what they had gone through. They started to tell me of a number of other type of spiritual experiences rather, that they were hesitant to share. And I've spoken to dozens and dozens of people, if not a couple of hundreds so far directly, and a few more thousands if we had to go into the world of Facebook and social media and some of those groups that I belong to. And friend, if you have a story, I would love to hear about it. There's my contact information on the screen. My website is susan@susanharris.ca. There is the contact page, and if you send me an email there, I will be sure to reply to you. And while you are there, if you would like to subscribe for my newsletter, or you would like to hear more inspirational talk or stories for the children, or Read with Smokey, you can simply click on the YouTube channel button there, and it will take you to my YouTube channel where you can find a number of talks and stories and cute animal video clips. Recently, my testimony was featured on the Near Death Experience Research Foundation site. I was honored to be featured there. The site is run by Dr. Jeffrey Long and his wife, Jody Long, and they seek to look at the characteristics of the near-death experiences by asking a number of questions and then trying to scientifically put these into context. There is over 4,500 stories on that website. It's told in various languages as well, and it's just a site that respects and validates and give credence to what those of us with near-death experience have had on an international scale. If you would like to read my story, you could read it there. It's listed under exceptional NDEs. And the website is www.nderf.org. And thank you so much for signing up or reading my story.